Good morning, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are all apparently Gurk, Smirk, Dirk, Shirk. Might be a lurk. I didn't catch that one. You are all captains of some sort this morning. Uh, you're silly. The whole crew of you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good night's sleep. Boy, peeps. Let me tell you about a little adventure that I had about an hour ago. I didn't think there was going to be a lifeboat this morning, so I went to bed last night really early. I went over to my sister's house last night and had dinner after the boat. And when I came back home, I immediately went to bed. It was like maybe 8 o'clock, super early. And good morning, Annette. I went to sleep at 8 o'clock, and then I woke up at about 3:30 in the morning, and I had the most unbelievable pain in my stomach, like a gas pain kind of a thing. And we've all had gas pains. We're all big boys and girls, and gas pains land you on the toilet more often than not, right? Because you have to get that gas out, and wasn't happening. And the floor of this house is stone. You know, the whole floor is. We got a couple of Oriental rugs thrown down, but it is absolutely just one big, huge piece of stone. And so I was sweating, and I mean like sweat pouring off me. So I laid down on this. Kathy, good to see you. I laid down on the floor, which began to cool me off a little bit. And in a matter of 3 or 4 minutes, the floor wasn't cold anymore, right? My body had kind of warmed that up. Well, we're glad you can stay for a few minutes with us this morning, Kathy. We're glad that you're here. So I moved to a cooler part of floor. And when I did, I had left a puddle that, I'm not exaggerating, I think if you had probably got up all of the liquid, it would have been 2 or 3 shot glasses. Maybe even a little bit more than that, of sweat that had just been pouring off of my body. Now, Squirrel probably experiences gas pains too. Squirrel is really on one this morning. Squirrel can smell a rodent through a wall. So if there's a rodent in the garage, she gets at the garage door and just goes insane. And I finally said, all right, screw it. And I let her in the garage. And when I went to let her back in, she didn't come. And that usually means that she's on the trail. A squirrel, oddly enough, unless she's in a really bad mood, doesn't kill the mouse. She just likes to play with them. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone in and she'll be, like this. And there's a terrified mouse between her paws, and she's just sort of, sitting there happy. And I can pick her up. She doesn't freak out. She just sort of looks at the mouse like, all right, take it easy. We'll see you the next time. So I let her in the garage, and she chased a mouse around for a little while, and had it over in the corner. It had gotten itself into a place where she couldn't get her paws, and she was patiently waiting, where she would have waited 2 days for that thing to move. But I brought her back inside, and now she's angry at me. Well, Scooby says, when I say my late father, I feel weird, like I'm just saying he hasn't come home yet. I don't often use the term late, like my late dad. Yeah, Squirrel probably did think that, Tim. It was really, really bad. New Zealand Chili Head, thank you, my brother. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Good to see you here this morning. So here's what happens, right? So I start panicking. My vision is blurry, hard to read. The chat. Well, then just listen today, Lemmy. If it's a struggle for you, brother, just listen today. And I know life's about to get better for you, Lemmy. And you know what, Lemmy, I'm almost 100% sure that I told you to put me in your 5. So, and I don't do that very often. I'm in very few people's fives because I just simply don't have, enough time. But you absolutely um, could have reached out to me, brother. So please do next time. You know what, man? Reach out to me. I will get back at you unless I'm in the hospital. So I started panicking, people, because when you sweat that much from pain and you just got out of the friggin' hospital, um, and then you start going into this panic mode. I know we've all done it, but when you're in the hospital, every 2 hours, 3 hours, people come in and they do a series of tests on you. And they get your vitals and all that, and they press on your stomach. And they press on your stomach all over the place, asking if you feel pain. Well, when you have gas pains, man, you touch your stomach, like everything hurts. And I started thinking, oh man, I hope this isn't heart related. And I started really getting into my own head. Um, and it really, really, Mel, glad you're here. And it really started making me feel like panicky. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then you start looking for more problems with your body and wondering if it's your heart. And then, like an idiot. So I made myself some coffee, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I just need to go to the hospital and find out exactly what is going on with me. Because these gas pains were a little bit worse than normal gas pains. So I made some coffee and I started to get ready to do the boat, and I was wondering how long I'd be able to pull it off. And then, like a ton of bricks, it hit me. So yesterday I had some people come out. I'm having the house done in solar. I'm going to make this house so that it has solar panels on it. Enough solar panels to generate all of the electricity that I need for the house, so that I don't have to worry about things like the power going out, right? And things like that. Be able to broadcast no matter what. So the person that came out to do it brought 4 people with him. There were 5 people in my home talking about solar power, and I mean, it was just a whole crew of people. But I'm very open, and if you see me, you're going to look at my arms, and you may not notice it. But if you're a heroin addict, you'll notice it. And one of the guys asked me how long I had been sober, and I said 8 years. And then I said, what was your substance of choice? He said, same as yours. He knew from my arms, but he had been sober 10 years. And these, one of the guys, he said, any chance I told him what I do, and I took a look at his watch because it's a complex watch, and he literally can't set it, change the date, anything. He said he's got to take it into a shop every time. So I got his watch squared away for him. And while in the process, we got on the subject of the lifeboat. And then, of course, that kind of leads to the subject of Chase the Heat. And the next thing you know, out on the table came a box of Super Hots, because I still got some lying around. I've had them in a box in the fridge for a while. And I ate 2 or 3 peppers yesterday, 2 or 3 Super Hots. And at the time, it really wasn't all that bad, but I'm pretty sure that what I experienced was a really tough bout of capsaicin cramps. Now, I could be wrong. I really could. I could be wrong, but that's my theory right now, is that it very well might have been. By the way, that one that I just put up was for Lemmy. Hey, Smitty, glad that you're here. Okay, so you saw the thumbnail today, peeps, right? I'm not even wearing a watch. Hold on a second. Let me get one on. Hey, that's 6 squirrel is part owner. That's true, right? Squirrel is most assuredly part owner. And of course, Mama Scoville, who I take care of. And have been doing so, and that sounds bad, because Mama Scoville does not need much taking care of. For a woman her age, she is in absolutely remarkable shape. She really is. But I am my father's last wishes. where that I take care of my mom. And you know what? It's been great. I've built back a much better relationship with my mother than I ever had, which is lovely. And now I'm getting that feeling in the stomach again. Not as bad as it was. And probably some of that is because I'm not panicking nearly as much. When you don't know what's going on, you can get kind of panicky, and that panicky feeds into the whole thing. You know what? What a beautiful comment. Look at this. Look at this. That, quite simply put, is a beautiful comment. Embodies everything that the lifeboat is. Right there. One shot, and that screams lifeboat, and I love it. I really do. I love it. I did put that up, didn't I? Son of a motherless goat. How's that? Why is that? There we go. There you go. There you go. Annette, I love that. What a beautiful comment. Kathy, I want you to stay for a really long time, but in case I miss it, because I'm not always able to keep up. So with the chat. So if I miss you, I do want to say bye to you, Kathy, but I hope you're here for a long time. But have a great day and be careful with yourself and take care. Everyone needs taking care of, says Mel, and Mel, spot on. And New Zealand Chili Head says, yep, sounds like I've had some horrible cramps before as well. You know what, New Zealand Chili Head, I did a tube of terror in 53 seconds. Might have been 43 seconds. Seventh Son might know. I know that there were a couple of crew members that were actually there that night that I did it. I did it on a talk show, but I did an entire tube of terror in 53 seconds. It's the world's record, I believe, for a speed run, or it was at the time anyway. And then when I was done, somebody said, you beat your brother's record by whatever, because at that point, I think my brother might have had the record. And they said, you beat it by a minute or two or whatever. And I said, no, it's, hold on one second. Oh, I got you. She says 8:30 remote appointment. Well, we're glad that you're here, Kath. We really are. So there I am, and they're giving me credit for the fastest run ever. And I said, yeah, but he didn't drink anything. He did the 10-minute afterburn. And he said, well, you haven't, had anything to drink. He's like, man, just, tough it out. And I took a bottle of tincture. And I didn't do it to be cool, I swear to you, or any of that. I did it because my mouth was so dry. And I knew that if I put, even if it's tank, right? If I put that liquid in my mouth, they're not going to disqualify me for drinking a bottle of tincture, right? But I would get liquid in there and maybe it would help. And so I drank a bottle of tincture on top of a tube of terror. And that night I thought I was going to die. I had capsaicin cramps that were so bad that they folded me in half like a wallet. My thighs were touching my chest and I could not straighten my body out, or I would have gone to the hospital. I really thought I was dying, but I couldn't stretch my body out enough to actually go to an emergency room. So I just sort of laid there thinking I was going to die. Hold on. Could consolation be a cause of your cramps, Tommy? I know, personal question. Consolation. I don't know what. Do you mean constipation? If you meant constipation, that's what I assumed it was. In all honesty, that is what what are cap cramps? Cap cramps are brought on by consuming. Yeah, Annette, I think it. That's what I assumed it was constipation. And it happens a lot when you take Suboxone. Suboxone is it's an agonist and an antagonist. Capsaicin is the spice that makes all things hot. So if you have a jalapeno, what burns is the amount of capsaicin that is in that plant. And there was a guy back in the day named Wilbur Scoville. And Wilbur Scoville came up with a concept of trying to quantify how hot something was. And he developed what has been called the Scoville scale, and is the standard for how we determine the heat of a pepper. And the Scoville scale thing, the way it works, is pretty cool. So how many ounces of water do you have to add to a jalapeno to where you wouldn't taste the jalapeno in the water anymore? And it comes out to be 4,000 ounces. So a jalapeno would be 4,000 on the Scoville scale. And that's how that works. And the hottest verifiable tested pepper, CK, good to see you. The hottest verifiable pepper is in the 2 million plus Scoville scale. And that kind of capsaicin, you're probably not going to get a lot of cramping if you eat jalapenos, unless you eat a ton of them. You might get minimal stuff. But when you start getting up into what they call the super hots, which is anything over about 800,000 Scoville units. But the number of peppers that I ate yesterday on a Scoville scale, if you threw those peppers into my pool, it would have made the entire pool tastes like pepper. Like there's not enough ounces of water in my pool to cool off the amount of peppers that I ate yesterday. So that's what a cap cramp is. And that says peppers kill my gut. Yeah, I mean, peppers can be really, really tough on a body. I mean, it's a pain thing, and here's I do really well with pain. I really do. I've always kind of had a unique relationship with pain, and I take it pretty well. If it was capsaicin cramps, it was as bad as I have felt them. It was almost as bad as when I did the Tuba Terror challenge for speed to see how fast I could eat it. Well, then don't play games, Miss V. Capsaicin is an incredible anti-inflammatory. Capsaicin, some people can't handle the capsaicin. It's true. I tend to do pretty well with it. I'm Johnny Scoville's little brother, so I do have a fairly decent tolerance. But this was this I don't know what it was. One of them was a chocolate bula, and I don't do as well with dark peppers. Frank's red hot is my limit. Does that mean you put that stuff on everything? Allison, you putting Frank's red hot on everything? What a great ad campaign. All right, so should we talk about the subject matter here today now that we've been farting around for the better part of 15 minutes? Johnny does Johnny does run on capsaicin. God forbid they gave somebody a blood transfusion from Johnny. The person would instantly have cap cramps. It would be instant. My brother eats more hot stuff than is healthy. And just for the record, it's one of those. Hey, James Novak, good to see you. Just for the record, if you're a fan of Johnny Scoville, if you've been over to Chase the Heat and see my brother's channel, Johnny really is that guy. Like everything you see on that channel, that's who my brother is. He's not putting anything on for anybody. When the camera's not running, he's still eating peppers. Like he's a lunatic. He absolutely loves it. Well, we don't want you in the hospital, V, so you be careful. There's Squirrel Nut Zipper. What are you doing? Come here. So let's get to the subject matter at hand. That's Squirrel. Let's get to the subject matter at hand. If you looked, you saw a lot of names on the thumbnail. Maybe you didn't notice it. Sometimes you just kind of show up because it's what we do. But there were a lot of words that were put up on the thumbnail, and they were words like junkie, crackhead, tweaker, meth head, cokehead, fiend, coke fiend, right? All of these different expressions: pothead, burnout, loser, convict. These are titles, and they're and in a way they're almost hats that we wear sometimes during the course of our life, and we accept those labels from society, and we accept them from ourselves, and it doesn't, the other day I was telling somebody the number of times that I've talked about the zombies walking around in the street, and words mean things. And about every 4 months on the lifeboat since the day we started, I've done a show called Words Mean Things. And it's really kind of I really think it's kind of important that we pay attention to the words that we use. And we need to do that for two reasons, maybe even three. But the big two would be that for society and for one another, right? I mean, if your drug of choice is if your drug of choice is meth, and I'm referring to people that use meth as tweakers, and you're referring to yourself as a tweaker, we start to take on the identity of what that word means. There was a guy back in the day named, I believe his last name was Yohari, and he talked about how all of us are in a box, right? And then the phrase thinking outside the box and all of those things are all references to Yohari's work. But let's say the box you're in is a boy, right? You're a boy. Well, what are boys? Boys are tough. They don't cry, right? All of that crap. They play with G.I. Joes. Well, there are certain boxes that we live in throughout our life. And if you start to put yourself into a box that's labeled tweaker, you start to accept everything that goes along with that. You start accepting how society views you and all of those things. Words have consequences. Choose them wisely, says Annette. Another good one. It's and the sad thing is this, that we will pull the trigger on our lips and tongue far quicker than we will on our fists, right? I would never hit that person. Tell you what, punch me in the chin. I have spent some time in prison, and I've been in quite a few fist fights in my life, and I can very often, the pain that you feel physically is over very quickly. I am still struggling with things that people said to me a decade ago. Had to step away from my phone. Somebody, without using a title, drove his Tesla into the median divider in front of my house. I live on a dirt road. What? Hope you're all right, Seventh. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but word could leave wounds that will never heal. What a great comment. And it's the truth. That is absolutely the truth. And it's really what I'm here to talk about. We don't want to hurt one another. Nobody here on the lifeboat wants to hurt anybody else on the lifeboat. In fact, people bend over backwards. Thank you, Awesome. No need. Just heard a racket went out. Guy stumbling around and saying that this isn't his house. Oh, might have had a couple of drinks. Seventh. See, instant assumption, right? He's drunk. In my head, I mean, a guy crashes a Tesla into a median in front of a guy's house. Starts making you wonder whether or not he's had a couple of drinks. However, once we start going down the road of labeling ourselves in unhealthy ways, we begin to live that way. We begin to accept other people labeling us that way. And we don't want to do that, number one. Number two, Mel says, psychological pain never really heals. You know what? It never goes away, to be sure. And I'm of the belief now that healing, and you're right, Mel. No argument. You're right. It doesn't go away. The way, in my opinion, that psychological pain goes away is that we learn how to live with it. So the pain diminishes, and it may not rear itself as often, but it is really a remarkable thing. How our brain works, and we can feel the same emotions from memory as we feel the first time it happens. And all of us have been in some situation where something triggers a memory. And the next thing you know, you're right back where you were when that memory happened. Your palms are sweating, your heart is racing, and it's kind of amazing, but it really does work that way with us, that our brain can't tell the difference sometimes between a memory and reality. And it's the reason that people struggle with so many emotional problems, is that, a lot of times we relive trauma and childhood pain for the rest of our lives. And you're right, it doesn't go away, but it absolutely is something that you can learn to live better. Certain music causes me to relive things. Boy, I believe that, Kathy. I've said many times um, I've said many times on the boat that there are like the album "Appetite for Destruction" by Guns N' Roses, which came out in like 1986, 87, maybe. Might have even been early release 85, but it's right in that period of time. And I was a big fan of that album when it came out, and then I kind of put it away for a while. Are you doing 8 Mile there, Scoob? Just goes to show the bit of a generation gap. Because when you started talking about palms are sweating, like lyrics came into my head too, but they weren't Eminem. No, but really and honestly, Kathy, when I hear Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, I'm not only thinking about it, I'm living it. I'm absolutely back. When I hear More Than a Feeling, I go to pieces. It's like I can see my ex. You know what? I really love that song too. And I almost started singing it, but I won't do that to you. Great song, by the way. Absolutely great song. But I don't listen to Appetite for Destruction. I remember sitting once with a girl that I dated, and this was somebody that I dated at once I got to a point in my life where I knew I needed to quit doing dope. I couldn't, but it was a constant thing in my head that I thought about it all the time, and I was always trying to quit. And I was engaged to this girl for a while, and the two of us were living in a condo in Nevada, and we were sitting at the breakfast table one morning, and she had this beautiful setup for music, and she had a remote control, and for everything. And she hit a couple of buttons, and the track 9 came on, which is Mr. Brownstone, and great driving beat in the beginning. But obviously, it's about heroin, right? That's what the song is about, and it's the song I used to shoot dope to every day. Make a long story short, she kicks this thing on, and she freaked out. She said to me, when the opening couple of bars of that song came on, right? She said, my pupils constricted. So we retested this probably 10 times. And at one point actually had a video of it. Sadly, the longer I did it, after about the 4th time, it stopped because, my brain started to realize it wasn't about to get any dope. But my brain was so accustomed to the fact that when that song came on, I was about to slam that the feel-good chemicals got released. Just like when the bag of dope is in your hand and you no longer feel sick, the feel-good chemicals got released. Then my brain gets pissed and goes, where's the rest of it? But when those feel-good chemicals hit, all of those things start to happen. It really is a wild phenomenon where the streets have no name. Another good tune. Makes me feel free. The one that makes me feel free is I like the song Life's Been Good to Me So Far by Joe Walsh. Something about that riff. As soon as I hear it, pulls me out of any mood. The other one is I'm Still Standing. That song has always just made me want to get up, dust myself off, and say, man, I don't care what happened. Honestly, it's an anthem for life for me. Use a pencil to rewind or pull the tape back in. Tim obviously lived through the 1980s. I would say that is painfully obvious because we've all spent a little bit of time with a pencil fixing. For their Use Your Illusion tour, I saw that too, V. I saw that tour. I also saw the tour that they did, Done with Mirrors tour, where they toured with Aerosmith, and that was promoting the first album. Aerosmith bailed after about 5 shows because people were more into the warm-up band than they were into them. Pantera takes New Zealand chili head to a happy place every time. Anything Tool gets me out of my head. See, I love these shows. I really do. I know we get off subject, but I love the shows when people start. It's how Goo Goo Dolls Always makes me feel cry because a band from my hometown, and I'd listen to it after my parents would fight. Every time, right when they say, and I don't want the world to see me, that's when it happens. And I don't want the world to see me. It's a good tune, too. Long way down. Yep. I had a friend when I was living in Houston, Texas, and selling coke and doing all the stupid things that I did when I lived in Houston, Texas. I had a friend who owned a concert security company, and we spent a long couple of years seeing every single concert that came to Houston, no matter what venue he handled the security. So, like, I saw every big band. I saw Pink Floyd. I saw the Stones. I saw the Eagles. Like every big band that came through town, I would go and see front row center. Online appointment. See you all later. Look at that. She does it right on time. Good for you, Kath. We'll see you on the next lifeboat. So the second point that I was trying to make earlier, you start to live. The first point was you start to live your life as if you start living as if you're a tweaker. You start living as if you're a junkie, and that really needs to stop. Journey, Duran Duran, Radiohead, all good choices, especially for a metalhead. I like almost all kinds of music. I really do. I don't really listen to the really heavy stuff anymore. I did when I was younger. I just kind of don't. There are bands that when they come on, I will always listen to, like Rush. Just makes me think of my brother, and I am a pothead. Come on, whatever expression that you start to use to describe yourself, you're going to eventually start falling into and accepting the box that puts you in, both from you and from society. Then the second part of this, which is the part that really bums me out, redefine the freaking box and build a new one if you have to. Amen. And that's what we're here to do. It's exactly what we're here to do. But the second aspect of these words and the use of these words and the choice of these words is what it does to our society. And this is something that you kind of have to put in the back of your head. And it's not something that a lot of people, it's not something that a lot of people probably spend a lot of time thinking about, unless you're in this community, unless you're in this environment where you're trying to help people get sober. But for a person to come out and say, I have a drug problem, if every single person in the entire world had always used terms like substance dependent, right? Instead of calling somebody a junkie, if you said that person has a medical condition, it really paints two different pictures. And if you don't believe that, if there were two guys sitting on the bench and both looked like they were shaking, bald hair, just looking very unhealthy, the black bags under their eyes, and I said one of those people is in withdrawal, and one of those people is suffering from radiation sickness from his cancer treatments. One of them you instantly feel sorry for. But as a society, the other you think is a loser. And we use the term loser regularly, right? These are things that people say, and it ends up hurting every other person who is in sobriety. And that's something we really kind of have to be careful about. One of the other things is, it takes a lot of work to transition from something into something else, regardless of what it is. As long as you're going in a more positive direction, it's a very difficult thing to change your life out of whole cloth. Like Colburn said earlier, make your own damn box, right? Well, I've pretty much done that. In the last 8 years, I've definitely designed my own box. I am super open and honest about the years that I spent, and I use the term junkie, but I'm going to stop. And the reason is I don't want somebody who comes here addicted to pills to hear that. If somebody comes here and they're addicted to heroin, they've been using the term junkie forever, right? They've been everybody that I know that's ever used a needle has very little problem referring to themselves as a junkie. I still think it's not good, but I did it for years. I called myself a junkie. I called my friends junkies. We were junkies. That's in my head. That's what it was. If somebody comes to the lifeboat and they're abusing 5 OxyContin 80s a day, or they're eating 10 OxyContin 80s a day, and they started that process in the doctor's office, right? You call that person a junkie, they're gone. Very often, you're going to scare them out of, I'm not a junkie. I mean, these people are. We've all gone through that syndrome, right? We've all gone to a NA meeting or an AA meeting where you say, all of these people, they're drug addicts. They're junkies. I'm not like that. I just drink too much. I'm not like that. I just do drugs too often, you know? Quiet Girl says, Tommy, this is absolutely true. If you say that you have a mental illness, immediately it's dismissed because no one can understand. But if you say cancer, heart attack, people can relate. Absolutely. And if that meant, good comment here too, Cheryl. Labels can be quite belittling. In fact, almost all of them are, right? Almost all of them are. And I used to, this is another one of those things that's the evolution of the lifeboat and the evolution of me. If you watch my early stuff, you're going to hear a lot of things that I have changed 180 degrees on. And this is one of them. I really want to get to a point where people in my life call me a drunk when they're angry at me. I thought I had become numb to it, but I noticed that in my negative self-talk, I'm nothing but a useless drunk. Valerie, thank you for sharing that, because this is the whole show right here, isn't it? Isn't it? This is the whole show. The people in Valerie's life, when they want to hurt her, right? That's why do you choose a word that's negative like this? Because you want to hurt somebody. It's not a nice thing. Snot face. I'm so glad you're here. I was worried about you. People in my life call me a drunk when they're angry at me. When they want to hurt her, they call her a drunk. Now, Valerie thought she'd become numb to it, but I noticed that in my negative self-talk, I'm nothing but a useless drunk. This was the inspiration for this show, by the way. Literally. Not Valerie, but I'll tell you what I mean. I say, to this day still, I'm a loser. That's the one that I struggle with, right? And yesterday, I was out doing something and it didn't go right. And I said, F my life. And I had not uttered that in I don't know how long. And it scared the crap out of me. It really did. And I thought to myself, it's probably high time for a words matter. Because if I'm doing this, if I'm breaking myself down, I'm not going to get to where I want to be in life. The only way you're going to hit the best that you can be is to love yourself, is to believe in yourself, right? Other people don't believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. Bank that. If I came on here and I started off the show by going, I'm just a worthless piece of crap, drug addict, junkie, and just tore myself down, convict, bank robber. When I did my very first show here, I said, I'm not proud of the things that I've done in my past. I'm not. But I'm damn proud of the fact that I got over it. I'm damn proud of the fact that I beat heroin. And I have beat heroin. I'm still beating it every single day. But I've beat that drug. I won. And to me, that's a huge thing. Now I am sober. I am happy. These are titles I like throwing out, right? I am happy. I am sober. I have a mission, right? Nobody calls me junkie these days. They call me captain, name you guys picked. And I dig it. I absolutely dig it. Annette says, drinking hurt my relationship with my daughters. My love for them got me sober and I will not go back. They are too important to me. It left a bad taste in their mouths, but we are good today. God bless that, Annette. God bless the fact that you're good today. For real. That's the dream, is it not? So let's go back here one more time. Because this, Valerie. So in your self-talk, we're going to stop that useless drunk stuff. Can we agree to that? Because you're not a useless drunk at all. Number one, you're not a drunk. A drunk is someone who drank too much and got to a point where they're intoxicated. That's an event. That's not a human. You're Valerie. I wasn't a junkie. I was a person that stuck needles in my arms because I couldn't cope in life. Why? Because I never learned how. Never learned how. How come people can't live sober? Because they never learned how. There's this misconception in the sobriety community that the way that you live a sober life is you stop doing drugs. That isn't a sober life. Crazy, right? Because it sure as shit sounds like one, but it's not. That is not a sober life. That is a chemical-free life. You can be a miserable human being and not do drugs. I've watched this phenomenon so many times. In the halls of AA, they would call it a dry drunk. You can call it whatever you want. But very often people call it a dry drunk. Mark Wages and I would use the term white knuckling. The white knuckle sobriety. I'm not going to drink. Well, that's no way to live. Right? You're not a drunk, Valerie. You're not a drunk. And you can't control what people call you, but you sure as hell can control what you call yourself. Right? And I got news for you. I can control what people will call you here. Because we're not having that anymore. We're not having anybody referring to people in these kind of terms. We'll very nicely to say to somebody, you know what? We try to go with different words than that. And here's why. I mean, we don't have to be snotty about it. Thank you, Full of Hope. I appreciate that. I really do. That's a very kind comment. And so are you, Full of Hope. You're absolutely amazing. And I'm glad that you're here. Allison Stacy says, Valerie, I think we all do that. We talk more shit about ourselves than anyone. And that's a great comment because it's so damn true, isn't it? I remember once saying to a very close friend of mine who I love like a brother, but he started saying some stuff about himself. And I remember saying to him, you know, if anyone else in the world said that about you, I'd kill them. If anyone else in the world talked about you the way you're talking about yourself, I'd punch their lights out. I would never allow that. So I'm not going to allow you to do it. You know, I love you, but I'm not going to allow you to talk about yourself like that. You have got to stop. And I honestly think, you know, it had an effect. He just looked at me like I was crazy. Seventh, isn't that amazing? You know, seventh, if you're new here, Janai T, what's the difference between clean and sober? Don't move, Janai, because I'm going to answer that question, but I wanted to touch on the seventh son comment here real quick. Sadly, there are a lot of people at AA meetings that are there because they're court ordered to be there. They just need that piece of paper signed. Very often, there are guys who the only time they're allowed to go anywhere is to an AA meeting. They're on house arrest, but they can go to an AA meeting. They live in a halfway house, but they can go to a meeting. So when I was in the halfway house, guys are doing everything they can to sign out to go to an AA meeting, and they have to get that thing signed. They got to get a piece of paper to get the piece of paper signed. And a lot of them now have the person sign it at the beginning and the end, right? To prove that you were actually there. But these guys would fill out those papers, and their only reason was to go out and get loaded, right? They were going out to buy beer. They were going out to buy drugs, but they would, they would have to go to that meeting. So very often there are people who are there for reasons other than you are. Seventh, he's been very, very open with everybody on the boat. After a long, long period of sobriety, he stumbled and he decided he was going to do 60 meetings in 60 days. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. It might have been 90 meetings in 90 days, but I think it was 60 and 60. And he's been very, very dedicated. But you're going to run into some people that aren't there for the same reason you are. And I'm proud of you for not allowing that to cause you to stumble. Janai, I hope I'm saying that correct. Janai T says, what's the difference between clean and sober? Okay, here's the difference between clean and sober. And I don't care about the verbiage. You can call it clean, sober, whatever verbiage you want. But there are really, when you're clean, it just means there's no chemicals in your body, right? It means you're chemical free. You've detoxed, right, off of alcohol or off of heroin. There's no longer any drugs in your system coursing through your body and helping you make bad decisions, good decisions, any decisions, whatever. Drugs are gone. That gets you clean. Sober is the ability to live a life without drugs. Sober is I'm happy and I'm not wasted, right? I don't every single day need drugs as a way to cope with whatever's going on in my life. That's sober. So when you hear people say clean and sober, well, they kind of go together because the clean part comes first, the sober part comes later. There are hundreds of thousands of people on this planet who, through sheer act of willpower, set down the bottle or set down the Coke straw or whatever drug they're on. And because they promised a significant other or a child or whatever that they were never going to use again, they don't. But they spend the rest of their life miserable. And the very first time I ever did a show, I got so much crap for this. And I've said it 100 times since then, and I get crap every time, but I'll continue to say it because I think it honestly is kind of the backbone of almost everything it's the backbone of, hold on one second. I don't care what I was called. You don't know me was my response. Be kind. You don't know what one is going through. Annette, sounds like you have thick skin. I used to say the same thing. I don't give a crap what you call me. But the problem is you really do. I did. You're not you. I always walked away feeling slightly different. Annette says, clean is drugs, sober is alcohol. Well, and there are, by definition, sober usually does technically refer to alcohol. Sober ends up being a term that we use across the board. The lifeboat has pulled full of hope out of a hole, mobile and hopeful. God bless you. That's the coolest thing ever, man. That is the coolest thing ever. God bless you. You know what? I'm gonna try to get back down to. Well, Janai T, that is my definition, right, of the difference between clean and sober. I pity people, and let me. I'll finish the what I was squirreling off on, and tell you that from the very first day that I ever did the boat, I have said if you are sober, right? I'm sorry, if you're clean and you spend every minute of every day wishing that you were getting high and being miserable, go get high. That's my advice. If every single day I couldn't accept the clean, sober, drugs, alcohol explanation, I thought alcohol is a drug as well. It is. But she's correct in that the verbiage, like that's, if you're a writer, right, and you've been trained or whatever, you're going to say sober for alcohol, you're going to say clean for drugs. But that's just semantics. What it really comes down to, especially for me, is that clean and sober is the combination of having no chemicals in your body and being damn happy about it, right? You can be clean because somebody locked you in a room. Doesn't mean you're happy about it. Clean and sober is I've got no chemicals in my body and I'm quite happy about that. Allison, keep trying and that smile will come out. Please don't step on the camera, squirrel. And I'm glad I'm saying Janai right because I screw up a lot of stuff that way. Chess Rockwell, good to see you. Squirrel's going to see what she can destroy. She is on top of a roll top desk. And everything on top of this desk is old, antique, valuable, and she's just wanting to destroy something. Squirrel's on one. How you doing? Saw that coming. Sorry, peeps. Sorry, people. Squirrel just almost destroyed the lifeboat in one shot. Can't even look into a mirror at all, but I will try. Allison Stacy, this is a phenomenon that so many addicts struggle with. Our own reflection is tough. especially in the beginning, because when we look in the mirror, we see something that we're not happy with. You're going to learn to love that reflection. I promise you are. New Zealand Chili Head says, I understand, as I've been clean 5 years and sober 44 days. Good for you, my brother. Yeah, squirrel for her close-up. Unfortunately, she's really... Scooby says, my brother and I keep hoping that this area's local crackhead gets better one day. You know, if we... Oh, for the love of God, squirrel. Sorry, people. Hopefully you're still here. There you are. Squirrel literally almost killed the lifeboat. My God, I am ready to take this cat off the planet. I love Squirrel, but she's driving me nuts today, peeps. Thank you for your patience. Come here, kitty. She is on one. She just dumped over her 3rd bottle of liquid on the day. Sorry, peeps, but I've got watch parts covered in liquid. So I would be a little happier if we thought of that local crackhead as that poor guy who has an addiction to cocaine of the smokable variety. I completely get it. And I've been doing this and I've been saying this my entire life. I want no one here to think I'm lecturing anybody, because I'm just learning this at the same time that I think I'm trying to teach it. But I really want us to start thinking of these people as people. I really want us to start concentrating on the fact that when you see somebody on the side of the road and there's one shoe on, and the clothing are ripped and tattered and torn, and you know that this person is strung out on something, that our first thought is love, that our first thought isn't being repulsed. And I'm a guy that literally said that this is it. I'm going to sell out in the wrong direction, right? I'm going to give up all public speaking that actually makes me money, and I'm going to go and try to help people avoid the pitfalls that I had in life. Now, before anybody gives me the Nobel Peace Prize for being the kindest person in the world that just wants to save the world, my first goal was to save me. And I thought that if I did a live show like this, good question. I thought that if I did a live show like this, that I would be accountable to so many people that there's no way I could relapse. Then I got addicted to the other half of it, literally addicted to the part of helping people. And here is a question that I just tried to put up on the damn screen, but apparently that's not working these days. What the hell's going on? There we go. Why can I help everyone but myself? This is a question that people ask me probably more than any other. Believe it or not, that's literally the question that I get more often than anything else. Why is it that I can help other people but I can't help myself? You know the answer, right? Let me tell you. The answer is this. When you help other people, what is the difference between helping someone else and helping yourself? And the biggest answer to that is emotion. Okay? If I come to you and I say, so here's the deal. Let me think. So an ex-girlfriend has been contacting me and it's causing problems with the current girlfriend. And somebody starts describing to you these kind of problems. Come here, squirrel. They start describing you these kind of problems. There's no love, right? When you're going and giving them an honest opinion, you're not in love. You're not jilted. You're not feeling pain. You're not feeling tempted or lust or any of the things that would be involved in that. Emotion is gone. It's very easy to step back and listen to somebody's problems and say, here's what you probably ought to do. There's no emotion. Now, make all of those problems you're advising on somebody else on your own. And now we have two parts of the brain going at the same time. If you ask me for advice, right? The frontal lobe gives you advice. If I start trying to advise myself, I've got the frontal lobe and then I've got that whole big emotional ball of crap, right? So I have the emotional part of the brain, I have the logical part of the brain, and the both of them are doing this number. When advice comes, all that's left is the logical part of the brain, right? There's the emotional part isn't attached because this isn't your life. Now you can toss out advice and help people, help everybody. It's very difficult to help yourself. So what do? Well, you then ask for help. You then ask for advice from people who aren't emotionally attached to whatever is going on in your life. Then you have an opportunity to help yourself. It's about leaning on one another. It's the reason that group freaking therapy works. This is what you got to realize. Group therapy was started by two people, right? Especially vis-a-vis drugs and alcohol. The two gentlemen that started Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Bill, when all of this went down, these weren't two guys that could get everybody sober. They couldn't even get themselves sober. The concept of, well, I could get somebody else sober, right? And maybe that person could get me sober. You realize that's the whole shooting match. If I help you get sober, you help me get sober, well, it's working, right? Yes, the frontal lobe. Correct. The reason that that's in my opinion what it comes down to is that when we try to help other people, we don't have our own emotions tied up in it, and it makes it a whole lot easier. Oh no, Annette, that sucks. Are you here to break something? It's so good to see you. Come on up here and destroy something. You know what? I love this little girl, but she is such a handful sometimes. Squirrel nut zipper. All right, no, stay in the basket. We're not crawling all over my watchmaking desk and destroying things. You little snot. Squirrel did it. Squirrel always does it. Didn't you? Little snot. No offense, snot face, but she is a snot. No, she's not trying to make up for knocking my bottle over. What she's doing is looking for something else to knock over. That's what my cat does. My cat knocks things over. She breaks things. She chews on things. Like my dog happily chewing 700 sunglasses. Booyah. See? John Doe knows. Mel, I'm telling you, Mel says, you know what? Thanks. I'll work on that. Here's the deal, people. I say that too much. I know that. Here's the deal, people. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get people who understand what we're going through to help us. Where do you find those people? Well, bars. Okay? You go to a bar and everybody in there will understand what it is to be an alcoholic. They're not going to help you much because they're in active addiction. So you got to go to a bar that doesn't serve any booze. And very often that ends up being a place like AA. Now, there's a lot of baggage that goes along with AA. I got nothing against the program. I don't. But all of a sudden you're face to face with people and, you know, there are relationships that build and then there's little clicks that click up and everything else. And that seems to happen a lot less virtually. It seems to happen a lot less when you're typing things in. No one is looking at you and going, well, T-Gun just got here. What in God is T-Gun wearing? Right? There's none of that. There's none of that, well, T-Gun looks a little this today or T-Gun looks a little that today. All of those things that kind of cloud up the entire system are gone with the lifeboat. And the ability to type instead of standing up, right? Hi, how you doing? I'm Tommy, and I'm addicted to heroin. And I know I don't know any of you, right? I just got here. But let me tell you a little bit about my story. You know, raise your hand if you're into public speaking. Not a lot of you, huh? Nobody's into public speaking. Public speakers aren't into public speaking, right? It is a phobia that really grips an awful lot of the world. It's listed as the number one fear of all human beings. Do you know that? Coburn says it's easier to type, and it's a lot less. Sounds like my kind of church. Well, I think that, anti-social media, which is really what it's become, isn't it? Actively cleaning the gunk from the gears. Amen. Amen. Tegan is in her gym jams in the afternoon and doesn't care. That a girl. That a girl. Afternoon, could it be? Yeah, I guess it is, right? Somewhere, sometime. Quiet Girl says, Tommy, I love public speaking. Well, there are some. Make no mistake, there are some. There just aren't a lot. There just aren't a lot, to be sure. You just make sure this isn't anybody in trouble. And it's not. Okay. So, this stretch of July is tough for me because 2 days in a row I have the birthday of my ex-wife, and then I have the birthday of my dad, and the combo of the two, I make it tough. One just is, really makes me always think back to the first real huge screw up of my life where I destroyed the first person that I destroyed, right? My first wife, who is, by the grace of God and by her own efforts, really built her life into something fantastic. And I'm super happy for her. But I miss my dad. And I'm always going to miss my dad, right? There are things that you learn to live with. You certainly don't get over, but you learn to live with. And I'm not alone. Everybody on the boat struggles with things, and we've all lost people and all of that. But it's going to be a rough day or two. But the good news is, wait a second, today's Friday. Man, I feel just like John Doe. I feel just like John Doe. I don't know what day of the week it is. Today's Friday, right? Yeah. I should know this because every Friday, my sister Scoville, and my mother and I go and do a brunch. Papa Scoville was a great man. Yeah, he really was. He really, really was. Just a hell of a guy. Never once gave me one bad piece of advice in all of the years I was on this planet. He did not give me one bad piece of advice. It's incredible. And you know what? And I'm sure now that I'm old and maybe a little bit wiser, I'm sure that he probably struggled with all kinds of stuff himself, but he sure could fix everybody else's problems. And he was damn good at it, and just humble and funny, and yeah, probably had the best sense of humor of anyone I've ever met. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if how many people can relate to this, but to have one person in your life that literally never let you down in any way, anytime you needed them, anytime anytime you were in a pinch or you were in a bad way or anything else, they never once didn't come through. Sorry. I'm going to go. We are to that part of the day, and I'm going to be back tonight. So we will see you people in about 11 hours, eh? By the way, I think, we'll do that the next time around. All right. Thank you, the Beaumont resident. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate you. That insomnia will eventually go away, my brother. New Zealand Chilihead says, yep, the joys of insomnia. Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I had it for a really, really long time. My mom turned 83 yesterday, and thank God she is a part of my lifetime. Awesome. Quiet girl. Awesome. Call her. Tell her you love her. Call her and tell her you love her. All right, peeps. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and I will see you on the lifeboat. You know what Squirrel's doing. She's breaking stuff. Annoying little animal.